I'd like to call to order the Alexander County Board of Commissioners regular meeting for February the 3rd. We will have Vice Chairman Ronnie Reese to give our invocation, and I will lead the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, we come to you today. Thank you for this day and all the good things you've given to us, the blessings for each day. Thank you for the time for this meeting. Give us wisdom, clear minds to make decisions to move Alexander County forward. Pray for all our county employees, all those who protect us each day, and Lord, just protect them as they go about their jobs and everything that they do. Give us a safe trip back to our homes, and Lord, we'll ask all this in the name of your Son, in your name. Amen.
If you would direct your attention to the flag. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone that's attending. At this time, do we have any commissioners with reports? We'll move on. Adoption of agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we'll go into public comment. I do have a set of rules to read out prior to having the speaker come up. The public comment period is intended to allow the Board of Commissioners an opportunity to listen to citizens' comments and concerns. It is not a time for the board to discuss issues or answers impromptu questions. A time period of 15 minutes has been established for public comment at the beginning of the first regular meeting in each month. Length of comment for each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. Please select one spokesperson to represent a group of citizens with the same concerns or questions. Comments are to be directed to the board as a whole and not to individual board members. Citizens will be expected to be civil and courteous in their language and limit comments to issues to public concern. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate county officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda. At this time, we'll ask Paul Kelly to come to the podium. And if you would, just state your name and what the purpose of that you're speaking on.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Paul Kelly, and I am a foster parent of a child from Alexander County. He has been under our care for 16 months. We decided to adopt him in September of 2023, and at that time, through our DSS contact here, we were made aware of some special needs, ADHD and a speech impediment. Through our advocating for him, once he was under our care, we came to learn through a geneticist and a neuropsych evaluation that he had much greater needs and diagnoses. And so it was something that kind of threw us for a while and made it more challenging as foster parents wanting to adopt, to kind of wade through all those issues and try to help him and make a decision about adopting him. And without getting into the specifics of the additional diagnoses, we became a little more hesitant to adopt him, just because of what through a lot of studies we learned would be ahead of us as he became into adolescence and a young adulthood. Chances of him ending up in jail were much greater, and we wanted to make sure that we could fully support his needs and the services. So I'm here today to talk to you about setting up SCAFE funding for children like our child, and to give you a little perspective from a real life example of how something like SCAFE, an incentive fund to adopt a child, can help, I think, get more kids out of the system and more quickly, so that they're not under DSS care and social workers and extended periods of time, because that opens up more of an incentive and an opportunity to give a child with special needs services more quickly. And I think it creates less hesitancy for potential adoptive parents to go ahead and do it. So with the Special Children's Adoption Incentive Fund, I believe from what I've read, the county would be paying 50% of the additional funding toward the child each year. And it's unclear to me whether it's just for the first year or it would continue. But when you consider that child would be out of DSS care more quickly and wouldn't have social workers coming and visiting every month and all the paperwork and the court dates and everything else, to me, it's a worthwhile expenditure for the county, and I think it goes to support the children that we all know are important.
Mr. Kelly,
As we
10 more seconds.
Okay, as we get older, we want to make sure that he's taken care of, and that beyond us, that there's funds put into savings from us for him through this program to make sure that he gets additional services and keeps him sort of on the straight and narrow and on a good track. So we're just hoping to get your support for this incentive fund that's going to be discussed in a little bit. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Tennille? And how do you say your last name?
Howman.
Howman, sorry.
Yeah. So I'm the district administrator for the Guardian Ad Litem program in our county and in Iredell County. So I work really closely with a lot of these children as well, and I don't want to go back and reiterate what Mr. Kelly had to say, but I want to speak about the SCAFE funding for a minute as well, just because I have seen there's multiple kids that we work with now who are kind of like at a standstill, who are in potential adoptive placements, but the financial part of it has become a barrier because these kids do have special needs, and the placements are willing to adopt them sometimes, but they just don't have the financial means. They do have the financial means to do it. It's just an additional incentive for them. And that would continue like even after the adoptions are finalized. So like Mr. Kelly was saying, one of the things that I have really thought about is, I know you asked me about the cost to it, but the cost of keeping these kids in care is also substantial. Like, we are continuing to pay social. I don't even think you can calculate the savings to the county, because we have social workers who are traveling. Most of these kids are placed more than an hour away, and you have social workers traveling every month to visit the kids, doing referrals for them for counseling, taking them to doctor's appointments, whatever those needs may be. I don't understand why we can't approve this so that we can pay these adoptive parents directly for those services that they're providing to the kids. And from my understanding now, we have, in our state, there's 33 out of the counties that have approved this, out of our 50 counties. So I just feel like it would be a huge benefit. One of the other things, and I did send you all an email last Friday, so I'm hoping you've had the opportunity to review that and to think about some of the things that I have expressed. But I'm planning to come monthly for a while, just because there's a lot of things that I have concerns about. But I went back and watched the December county commissioners meeting, and in our county, Carrie, Ms. Gerald presented that we have 8% vacancy rate. So we have an entire foster care team that's vacant right now. We don't have any foster care social workers. I think they have hired one since then. But that to me is a crisis. I used to work in this county, and I know I feel like that's concerning. We have over 50 kids in custody, and they are still divided between social workers. So I know they're managing it, but it's just difficult for them to manage right now. So I did put several different suggestions in my letter, because I know when it was discussed last month, Mr. Lell asked about the reason why we can't get qualified people in here. And one of the things that was mentioned was the pay scale, but Ms. Gerald said that we can't even get people to apply. So I looked up the surrounding counties, and on average, the social workers in all the surrounding counties were making about $5,000 more, just the postings. So if we were able to increase that amount just to be competitive with those counties, I think we would get some more folks qualified.
10 seconds.
Huh?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. See, I told you I know I'm not going to have enough time. But I also know those caseloads are lower. I just have a lot of suggestions for that. I feel like if we could offer a sign-on bonus or something to bring people in, that we have to do something, because it's really dangerous at this point that we don't have anybody to monitor these cases. So, thank you. Jamie, you can sign me up for 3 minutes next month. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
This time, we'll call Don Taylor.
Need glasses nowadays. Good evening, everyone. I am Don Taylor, and I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude to Alexander County Commissioners, county residents, and the residents of Bethlehem for being here and taking time to listen to our update on the incorporation process for the town of Bethlehem. This is not just about process, it's about our community, our future, and ensuring that we, the residents of Bethlehem, have a voice in shaping the direction of our town. Where we are in the process, I'm pleased to share we're in the final stages of incorporation. Here's where we stand today. Petition signatures have been approved by the Board of Elections, exceeding the requirement for incorporation. We've received official notification from Hickory stating they will not oppose the incorporation of Bethlehem. We have a town charter, boundaries, and statistics, including the form of government and approved tax rates. We have a legally approved draft bill ready to present it to the General Assembly. We have received preliminary budget proposals from several organizations for contracted services. And right now, we are working with the North Carolina Local Government Commission to obtain a financial certificate for incorporation. We expect to complete that submission in the next few weeks. Once we receive approval, our next step will be to follow the new House rules adopted in January and submit our completed incorporation packet to the Municipal Incorporation Subcommittee. This will bring us even closer to making Bethlehem an official incorporated town, something that has been made possible by the dedication and determination from the residents of Bethlehem. But again, I'd like to explain why we're pursuing incorporation. I'd like to clarify, let me be clear. This moment is not about opposition to growth. We're not being selfish, nor are we against new housing. And we're certainly not trying to stop currently approved projects. These projects will move forward as planned. However, what these projects have done is highlight an important issue, one that many residents were unaware of. In May of 2024, the county made changes to our zoning rules. These changes allow for high-density housing in ways that do not reflect the vision that most of us have for Bethlehem's future. That is our main concern. That is why over 1,000 residents have voiced their support for incorporation. It is not the effort of a few individuals. This is a movement led by the people of Bethlehem, by neighbors who care deeply about the future of the town. But what this means for Bethlehem: by incorporating, we're giving ourselves, the residents of Bethlehem, the ability to protect our town from future high-density housing projects, preserve our farmland and community character, decide for ourselves what is best for Bethlehem. This is about local control. This is about ensuring that the people of Bethlehem, not outside developers, county officials, but the residents of this town, decide where and how we invest in our future. We're on the right path, we're making progress, and with the continued support of Bethlehem residents, we will succeed. We look forward to working with county officials, local municipalities, and the Council of Governments as we continue down this path. And upon approval, we look forward to holding a fair and free election to elect our own town council, a council that will truly represent the voices and values of Bethlehem residents. Thanks again for being here, for your commitment to our community, and standing together as we take this next step into shaping our future of Bethlehem. Thank you so much.
This time, we'll call Marie Taylor.
Hello. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Marie Taylor, and I am one of the interim commissioners of the soon-to-be incorporated town of Bethlehem here in Alexander County. My husband Don and I have been a part of this community for over 15 years, and for over the past 10 years, we have been the ACGOP district chairman for Bethlehem. We've held community events at our house, worked the election polls, met with Bethlehem community members, and have participated in many of the events in Alexander County. And most importantly, we have been listening to our neighbors. I would like to address some of the misinformation that has been circulating about the incorporation of Bethlehem, particularly the claim that Don and I are outsiders attempting to control our community. That couldn't be farther from the truth. In fact, many of the residents who approached us with concerns about the recent zoning changes and the future of our town were longtime Bethlehem residents, not newcomers of 15 years like us. They asked, what can we do to responsibly develop Bethlehem while preserving our farmland and maintaining the rural character of our community? Right now, many people feel the county changed the zoning to high-density zoning so that our land can be sold out to the highest bidder. At first, we were just as surprised as the new high-density zoning proposals as the rest of our neighbors. Upon learning more about the issue, we discovered that high-density housing is much more profitable for developers because it requires less infrastructure. Things like water lines, roads, sewer systems, electrical systems, which ultimately makes it easier to build and gives them a higher profit. This presents a real risk for Bethlehem. It puts a target on our open land, and we could easily lose the rural landscape we all love. Additionally, we learned that Bethlehem has been designated as an urban growth center by the county, a term that, frankly, doesn't fit with the image of our community or the values of our community. Many of us who moved here for its rural charm or have lived here for our whole lives find this designation troubling. We want to make sure Bethlehem remains a place where we can maintain the lifestyle we've chosen and where responsible development is possible without sacrificing what makes our town special. Some of you may have heard from a county commissioner in a recent podcast that newcomers like my husband and I should not have a say in Bethlehem's future. I want to be very clear. This is our community, and we all deserve a voice in its future. Our supporters, over 1,000 people strong, come from a mix of lifelong residents and newer members of the community, all who care deeply about preserving the rural way of the life we hold dear. Instead of being told to grow up, as one commissioner put it, the county needs Bethlehem to grow so that the rest of the county can stay rural. What's happening right now is Alexander County commissioners are making decisions based on what's best for the county as a whole, but those decisions don't always align with what's best for Bethlehem. We want to ensure that we, the people of Bethlehem, have control over the decisions that affect our town. We want to protect our land, make sure our community can grow responsibly, and ensure that the taxes we pay stay in our community to benefit us directly. I want to emphasize that the goal of the incorporation is not to shut down development or prevent growth. It's far from it. We are in favor of responsible development that fits with our values and respects the rural nature of our town. But we also want to make sure that development doesn't come at the cost of what makes Bethlehem such a unique and beautiful place to live. We are not being selfish or having temper tantrums, as one county commissioner put it. Incorporating as a town
Thank
gives
you.
us the
Your time
ability
is up.
to decide our future, to shape how our land is used, and to ensure that Bethlehem remains a place that we can all be proud of to call home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you read the rules of public comment prior to public comment,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't feel that the rules were followed.
We'll address that later.
We'll address that later.
Thank you. Calling next, Special Children Adoption Incentive Fund, DSS Director Carrie Gerald.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here to present on the SCAFE funding, Special Children Adoption Incentive Fund. This fund was designed to assist children with special needs in finding permanency. The state has outlined specific criteria for SCAFE. SCAFE addresses common barriers to adoption such as age, medical needs or disabilities, being part of a sibling group. SCAFE provides financial assistance to adoptive families to meet unique needs. Approximately 1/3 of North Carolina counties are participating in the program to date. And I believe 2 of our real neighboring counties are participating in the SCAFE funding. Established in 2001 with appropriation of funding through North Carolina General Assembly, payments are provided to adoptive families of certain eligible children with special needs who apply and are approved before the finalization of the adoption decree. So basically, they have to have applied for the adoption decree first in order to receive SCAFE funding. The North Carolina General Assembly establishes rates for adoption assistance at a graduated rate based on the eligible child's age. Special children adoption incentive funds are available to children who meet additional special needs criteria. The payment amounts are based on the child's last 6 months in foster care and are designed to promote adoption for children with special needs, which may have reduced the likelihood of adoption. To be eligible for SCAFE, the child's needs and daily supervision requirements must meet an exceptional level of care, and the state defines what that is. They have a set criteria. Statistics in North Carolina: there are 10,500 children under 18 that are in foster care daily. Our 18 to 21-year-old program, the numbers are rising, and we're right now at 11,500. The impact of adoption provides stability and permanency for children, improves emotional, developmental, and social outcomes. So how the incentive fund works. So what you would, if you decide to participate in SCAFE funding, you would just let me know. I would send a letter to the state coordinator for SCAFE. I would send a letter to her letting her know that the county would like to participate. Families adopting children with special needs would apply for the funding assistance under SCAFE. So basically, our social workers would do all of the paperwork and submit all of the criteria that is needed for the SCAFE funding to the state. Commissioners, you may opt to review and determine eligibility as a pre-screening process prior to the state reviewing the paperwork. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services reviews the application and determines final eligibility for the SCAFE funding. North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services makes monthly payments of SCAFE funding to eligible families who complete adoption of qualifying children and invoices the county for 50% share of the cost. So the SCAFE funding is funded by the SSBG grant, Social Services Block Grant. 50% comes from the county and 50% comes from the state. And those funds are usually to cover medical care, therapy, and education. Considerations to participation in the SCAFE program: provides additional financial support to families willing to adopt children with qualifying special needs which meet SCAFE funding guidelines, thereby reducing or eliminating financial barrier to permanency. Provides families with the financial support for access to resources such as medical care, therapy, and specialized education for qualifying children. encourages adoption, and attains permanency for children who may otherwise linger in the foster care system. The funding payments continue until the child turns 18. SCAFE may prove difficult to project estimated future participation rates, resulting financial demand for SCAFE participation. So right now, we couldn't give you a ballpark figure, but if you would like to participate in the program, if you say, Carrie, I need you to go back to the state and ask these specific questions, I'll be more than happy to do that. There is no true ceiling to potential program cost and future budgetary impacts. You can opt to cap annual participation under SCAFE by limiting funding or program capacity. The county can negotiate SCAFE payments with the families. However, both parties must agree to the negotiated rate. The county can opt out of SCAFE at any time. However, if you've already opted in, if you say you want to participate and you agree, you have to continue to pay that family until that child turns 18. Due to the complicated nature of funding sources and varying parameters which affect payments, it is difficult to provide an accurate financial impact estimates to county funding requirements for participation in SCAFE. Staff have determined that in some instances, the monthly county share of payment costs could double, whereas in other cases, the monthly share may only represent a nominal increase. Actual impacts could only be determined on a case-by-case basis, taking into account the many variables which may affect payment rates. As you know, we have a decrease in foster homes. We don't have any therapeutic foster homes in Alexander County. So therefore, the SCAFE funding could help with that. The opportunities to increase permanency, promote awareness of SCAFE and other programs to assist with helping children achieve permanency, advocate for additional resources for families considering adoption of children with special needs. The community can help by sharing details about the funds with families in the community, advocate for resources, support initiatives to expand the fund, collaborate, work with the local agencies and advocacy groups to increase awareness and accessibility. So I know that was a lot. If you have any questions, now, I'll do my best to answer them. If you have specific questions, you can let Todd or Jamie know. They know how to get in touch with me, or you can reach out to me. And I'll be more than happy to get the answers for you.
One question I have, and I have some experience with this, not with the SCAFE funding, but what's the definition of special needs? Is it the, I assume that would be the state's definition.
Right. So there's a list. There's a list of criteria that the state has stated. So I know some are medical. There are, it could be medical physical or for emotional needs. Children who have been in care for a while, because of these needs, they're unable to be adopted. It could be a child who has severe autism.
Or it could be kids like mine, because all 4 of our adopteds are special needs. Per state. And other, which, I mean, legitimately, they, I mean, but, so what percentage of children in, you know, this, I guess it's specific, what percentage of children in care would you expect would qualify?
So right now, there are about between 6 and 10 maybe that we have in care now. I believe we have, 54 children in care?
But of the ones that, the fund, okay, if I heard it correctly, there has to be, I mean, there has to be the permanency plan that the child is adoptable
Right,
prior to the possibility of the foster parents receiving the funds.
correct. Correct.
And just for clarification, because I know, because I'm aware of this, because it's at my house and in my family, a special needs child, once they are adopted officially, the state does provide a, monthly,
Stipend.
stipend.
Yes, correct.
Not that it's a large amount of money,
Right,
but it does help with doctors being in Charlotte and doctors being in Asheville.
yes.
And all that kind of stuff. But basically what this would do, if I'm just try to simplify it in my mind, this would allow for those payments to be made to foster parents while they are still foster parents.
Foster to adopt parents.
But I mean, but foster parents, not, adoptive, but, because I mean, even once a child is made adoptable or is deemed adoptable, they're still in foster care until they are adopted. And then at that time, the parents would transition from foster parents to adoptive parents.
Correct.
So it's kind of it's a bridge kind of thing.
It's actually an additional.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like the adoption assistance, most of the kids qualify for.
Tanil, you'll need to step up to the podium so everybody can hear you.
Yeah, please.
And like that, it's an additional amount, but it has to be, like you have to submit extra information to the state, like about their, like if they have, like she was saying, autism, like you have to submit information to the state to see if they would qualify, and then they kind of determine that, and then it's in addition to the standard board rate for adoption assistance.
Okay. Because, and one reason I asked that is because to me, the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services definition of special needs is pretty broad.
Yeah, because there are a few kids
I mean-
that don't meet the special needs criteria, but like if they're over the age of 6, they automatically meet the special needs criteria. But there's different criteria for that. Like
If they're mixed race.
If they're mixed race and over the age of 2.
Right.
If they're a sibling group of 3. So a lot of our kids do meet that criteria, and they would automatically get that standard adoption assistance
Okay,
payment.
so
But
this is not the standard, so this is.
this
okay.
is in addition to, is what we're asking, like kids who are stuck because they have, like we have a child who has severe autism, nonverbal, and like we haven't been able to,
Right.
like I don't know that we would ever be able to find an adoptive placement for him unless we had more to offer, because he does have substantial medical appointments, therapy, he's in therapy every day, like he goes to like a daycare every day, like a center, so it would allow us, it would just broaden our ability to find placements for these kids, permanent placements for these kids.
Okay.
And sorry, I
That's fine.
didn't mean to.
Carrie, it's my understanding that I guess, in the requirements for a foster family, and I actually discussed this with Tennille prior to the meeting to get some insight, that we have requirements from the state on qualifications for the foster parenting. And then in some of those requirements, like you have a board of commissioners here whose families run pretty deep in a small rural county of only 37,000 or so folks. So, and then marriages, and that brings in another group of, I mean, it's just a small area. So, you know, not all requirements, in my opinion, fit all areas. Like, for instance, a higher density population area like Asheville, you know, or you know, anywhere. So it was brought to my attention that, you know, not even if someone in my family wanted to foster, we could not.
Correct.
Which, because there's a conflict, but for the life of me, I can't figure out the conflict. If it's a child in need and there's a family that's a great family that would qualify on everything else, but because I'm sitting here as a commissioner,
Right.
knocks them out, is there any way to, and I'm just asking because I don't know the answer, is there any way to put that voice or question out there to the powers that be to see it's not a one-size-fits-all category? And I know like in the construction side of things, being a small area, I could, as a general contractor, put in a bid on something. There's some formalities on it, but it's still allowed because we are a small, dense population, which I don't do that, but I'm just saying it's available. So they do make, you know, I guess, changes for small rural counties on some things.
Right.
And it might not be a good analogy, but that's something I'm familiar with, so. I didn't know if we could put a voice out there to even do that, because there's gonna be a lot of commissioners to go through as time goes on. And, you know, what's the definition of the family, how far down the chain
Right.
that goes. So I think a lot of qualified applicants could be knocked out of bringing in a child or into their home and having a happy, you know, family, but just my opinion.
It's a good opinion. And I will be more than happy to ask the state about it. It's, so in our manual, the social service manual, it talks about that, about rural counties. So I'll be more than happy to contact them tonight. I'll
Once
send
you
it.
do, would you follow up with me?
Yeah. I
Thank
will.
you.
And to that point, when Molly and I were initially licensed as foster parents, I mean, we did it through Caldwell County because, you know, I mean, I couldn't do it. Well, actually, just to be real blunt, when my wife inquired about it to start with, long time ago, which is not the case now, but she was told we didn't need, that Alexander County didn't really need any more foster families. That was a long time ago. So things are better, but they're not where they need to be. But we actually, like I said, we got licensed through Caldwell County.
Right.
And, you know,
Right.
it's not the convenient way to do it,
Right.
but do what you gotta do, I guess.
Any other commissioners? Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item number 8, resolution to advance reappraisal schedule and implement a 4-year cycle, given by County Manager Todd Herms.
Thank you, Board of Commissioners. Tonight, I come before you with some information about a reevaluation cycle to get your opinion on whether we should change our current cycle from a 4-year to from an 8-year to a 4-year. As you see around us, the 22 counties surrounding us, all the green is due to be the next reevaluation in 2027. The orange, kind of the Texas orange, I guess, is this year. The blue is 28. I don't want to show my ignorance in geographic area, but the yellow is the only county that's done in 2026. Our next evaluation is scheduled for 2031. As you can see, would be a standalone by ourselves in that area. And so if you look at the comparison, 4-year cycles in the state of North Carolina, 51 counties do that. 32 do an 8-year cycle, and so on down the aisle. Comparisons around us, Arizona counties are currently an 8-year cycle. Ashe, Avery, Burke, Caldwell, Catawba, Gaston, Iredell, Lincoln, McDowell are all in a 4-year cycle. Wilkes is a 6-year cycle. The reason for a 4-year cycle is most Americans, their number one investment is their home. Most middle-class people, that's their number one investment. Hopefully, each year that investment grows in value. Over an 8-year cycle, that can be a kind of a shock when we do reval, that it's gone up, so much. A 4-year cycle would cut that in half and also lessen the blow. There's some data that's I found very interesting that supports moving to a 4-year cycle as well. On average, the counties that do it in a 4-year cycle have a much lower tax rate. Currently, the counties in North Carolina do a 4-year cycle. Their average tax rate is 57 cents. The average for an 8-year cycle is 71 cents and some change. So if you look at it, that's one thing. It also improves the accuracy of property valuations, assesses with keeping the taxes rate lower. It equal outs the tax distribution, I can't say that word. And the main thing is we're trying to take all the growth in 8 years and spread it out so it doesn't shock the citizens as much, and it allows us to adjust the budget and adjust the tax rate as needed. I want to make this very clear. I'm not advocating that people pay more taxes. I'm not that. I'm just advocating that we be as accurate on our tax revaluation as possible so we can set a proper tax rate across the board. And then when it comes 8 years later, it doesn't shock everyone. In 2023, we did a full measure list evaluation, which means we went out and physically looked at every piece of property in the county. We are not recommend doing that on a 4-year cycle. Over 8 years, there's a lot of changes that occurs. Over a 4-year cycle, there's much less, so therefore we don't have to do as much work as far as on-site. Due to time constraints, we wouldn't be able to do a full cycle anyway, and a lot of our staff members that worked here during that time have either left and went to other counties or have retired. An estimate to do a 4-measure cycle is $891,000. That does not include the in-house cost. If we do a 4-year cycle, we're looking at around a $300,000 cost every 4 years, which is a savings as well. Again, the main thing on this is, and I want to make sure everyone knows, we're not looking for people to pay more taxes. We're looking for people to have a more accurate tax valuation so we can set a tax rate on. So I will attempt to answer any questions that you may have at this point in time. I think the last slide is just basically saying that we're asking to approve the resolution to do so.
I don't have any questions, but I mean, one of the biggest things was asked to me when we had the last evaluation was, why did you wait 8 years to do this? And the fact that everything had gone up so much, and people were concerned about that, and they're like, why don't you do it every 4 years? And that, I mean, even though that the rates did go up, I think the fact that doing it every 4 years would be so much better on the citizens, and it'd be a fair way to do everything and make it more equal over a period of time.
Yeah, so there's some history with revals in North Carolina. When it first came out, every county did 8 years, and the state actually mandated which counties did it at what year. That was a long time ago. Over the years, there's been several changes. the best practices for a county that's growing is to do it every 4 years. There's actually state law that once you meet a certain threshold, you have to do a revaluation. We haven't hit that, but if you talk to most counties and most people in local government, they do recommend a 4-year cycle just to keep everything in check and, again, lessen the sticker shock when you get your tax revaluations after 8 years. It's kind of funny, like me, my biggest investment is your home, and you want it to grow, and then when you see how much it grows, it kind of shocks you sometimes. But the opposite of that is we've had a really bad economy. So I can't stress enough that I'm not asking for more taxes from the citizens. I'm just asking for the county to save some money on reval and for us to have a more accurate listing every 4 years when we do send it out.
Well, I would just agree. I'm not a big fan of paying taxes. I do have property, and all my family owns property here too. And I know the 8-year one, there was some of them I didn't even talk to for a few days because they got their, bill. And I think 4 years gives you more time. You've got some planning when you think something's going on, or it may stay the same. But from what you showed here, it's going to be less workforce people to do it, less money to do it. And just as you said before, in 8 years, it's pretty in-depth, going out and looking at property,
Now, I will tell you, the transparent, 4-year cycles does make it a little bit more tougher on staff because, you do your reval and then you take a breath for a couple of years before you have to worry about it again. When you're on, they still, I shouldn't say it like that, Doug's gonna kill me. They still work on it every year, it's just not as intense. When you shorten that to 4 years, it's a little bit more compact, it does get a little bit more intense. So it does add more work to our staff, but there's less work to be contracted out every 4 years than it is every 8 years.
If this is approved, I see where it's moved from January 1st, 2031 to January 1st, 2027. So should the public expect to see results of that on January the 1st, or the actual reval start on January?
As I understand it, and that's a good question. I didn't think to ask the tax appraiser. I'm assuming that will start on January 1st, 2027. Nope.
It would be effective January.
Yes, so it'd be effective. Yeah, well, yes, they would start. When I say start, the citizen would realize it January 1st, 2027.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I think one misconception with tax rate, the whole thing, and I can see how it's very easy to not be happy with property taxes, because I'm not happy with mine either. But, the truth of the matter is, there's a certain amount of money it costs to operate the Alexander County government, which, and I don't like to say the Alexander County government, but to operate the Sheriff's Department, to operate EMS, to operate social services, to operate library, the libraries, to operate, all the different aspects and services that the county provides. And, to come up with $1, you can have a 50-cent tax rate and a $2 valuation, or you can have a $1 tax rate and a $1 valuation. Yeah. So it's, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. If the valuations are higher, the rate doesn't have to be, the rate doesn't have to be as high.
Yes.
Vice versa. I think historically in Alexander County, and correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, historically in Alexander County,
our valuations have been very low compared to market value.
They have.
And I can say that as a, with being in the real estate business for over 20 years. The goal of the state of North Carolina is for our tax values to be market value with, and I don't remember, I've learned all this in, obviously as a commissioner, and every citizen's not expected to, I don't want to say to know all this stuff, but, once our valuations get to be a certain, percentage of market value, there's actually, and I don't remember the number, but there's actually a trigger where a reevaluation can be done, and the state says you need to do a reevaluation immediately.
And those cost a lot more because you're
Right.
doing it in a short period of time.
And, with this last reevaluation, I don't want to say every single piece, but I would imagine about every single piece of property in Alexander County. I know my house and my neighbors' houses, and everybody on this board's houses, the values went way up. And just to make my point, prior to our last revaluation, our tax rate was 79.5 cents per hundred, and our current tax rate is 65 cents per hundred. And I think that's one thing that we need to stress is, like you said, if we go to a 4-year reevaluation, it's not so we can take more money, because we pay the exact same taxes. We pay the exact same taxes that every other citizen, every other property owner and citizen in Alexander County pays. Now, we don't like paying them either. And I think historically, our Alexander County's rate's been higher, and I'm thinking 20 years ago, because 20 years ago, the tax value on this house in Alexander County was significantly lower than very comparable house in Catawba County. Catawba County had a lower rate. 20 years ago, Catawba County's county rate was significantly lower than ours. Well, that's because, it's either 50 cents times 2 or $1 times 1. And so I think more than anything, we need to look at this decision as what's in the best interest of being fiscally responsible from how much does it cost the county to do the reevaluations, because I can, at least for myself, and I know these other gentlemen would agree, like you said, we're not looking to take more, we're not looking to charge more tax. We're not looking for, because we need a certain amount. We need a certain amount to make things go, and we don't need more than that. Which I think again can be proven by the fact that we cut the rate 2 cents from last year to this year, because we just don't feel like we should be charging the citizens of Alexander County anything more than what we have, than what has to be.
Yep.
So that's my soapbox for tonight.
I will say this, I'll say a couple things. This is really my first presentation as your manager in 6 months. It wasn't the one I would have picked, but you hired me to give an honest opinion, give you stuff. That's what I'm doing. I think this is the best for the county. I will also say, and I'm biased, I think paying your local taxes is the best bang for the buck. You get police protection, you get EMS, you get schools, you get everything that we provide, courts and everything, for less than a coffee, on average, for less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks. a month, a year. So we've been working on the numbers. The average citizen pays just over $3 a day in county taxes in Alexander County. My wife, I do not drink coffee. My wife drinks it every morning, and I can tell you it's much more than $3 at Starbucks or Dunkin'. So that's neither nor here or there, but I will say again, this probably wouldn't have been the one I picked a year ago if you'd asked me what would be the first thing I'd present to the board. But this is the one I think is the most important, and I'm willing to put my name on it. But I think it's important for us to do this to provide financial stability and long-term planning for the county. It's very difficult to plan a 7-year, 8-year capital improvement plan with uncertainty of what's going to happen with the tax base. By doing it more often, you have a better and clearer picture of the trajectory of your tax base and where you're going, which helps to provide stability and financial future for the staff to provide to you to make decisions. Does anyone else have any more questions?
This is an item that, if there's no further discussions, this is an item that we do need to call for a vote. So do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the resolution to advance Alexander County's appraisal schedule from January the 1st, 2031 to January the 1st, 2027, and implement subsequent reappraisals every 4 years.
I'll second.
I got a first and a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. Item number 9, budget ordinance amendments 23 through 24 by Mr. Herms, County Manager.
Yes, before you have a budget amendment. These are for supplies in the health department for communicable diseases and child health, and $1,000 for expenses, Department of Social Services and United Way grant. And then a decrease on for project budget ordinance for Hancock and Moore building renovations.
Any discussion?
These are kind of like it didn't cost us any money.
No, not really, but you still have to have action to bring them in. So.
That's right.
Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve budget order amendments 23 and 24.
Second.
We've got a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. At this time, y'all have had a chance to review the consent agenda. If there's no questions or concerns, I'll ask for a motion.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Got a second. All in favor, raise your right hand. Motion carries unanimously. At this time, we will be going into closed session per NCGS 143-318, 11, 4, 5, and 6 for the purpose of economic development, contractual, and personnel. We will only come into open session, back to open session for adjournment only. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn. Closed session.
All in favor, right hand? Thank you.